Hello and welcome to another podcast with your hosts Chris and me, and a warm welcome back to Grandmother Mulara and Sue. Today we're going to start our podcast on a very different topic. We're going to talk about ETs or extraterrestrials or aliens. Also, this topic does recognise the interdimensional and extra-dimensional aspects of non-human entities. Not all aliens are anti-humanity, and many of us have star family connections. I'm also hoping that Simon will pop in to join us for a few minutes, as he's a recognised speaker on this topic. In thinking about this podcast, I came across an interesting message. It's time for humanity to explore the option that there are a multitude of intelligent life forms, many of whom have achieved advanced technologies, while some have achieved advanced consciousness. And now over to Chris.
Thank you, Becky. Hello, everyone. So that message resonates with me too. I have always believed that we're not alone. And when I've believed this ever since I was a young child. I grew up out in the country where there were no close cities or towns. So our night sky was really, really dark. And as a young girl, I remember going out and sitting on our back deck and looking up at the millions of stars that were out there and wondering who was out there. And when the stars were twinkling down, wondering who was trying to communicate with me. And then I went to school and was told that we were the only ones here. And I'm sure many of those who are listening have heard that as you're growing up. And it just never resonated with me. And over the years, I've looked at scientists who have studied this. And there's actually a lot of research that's out there. And if you're interested, you can look this up for yourself. But studies show, so this is good information for those who are maybe sitting on the fence on this topic. But studies show that just in our galaxy, there's up to 10 billion planets that could hold liquid water, which would make them habitable. And so again, when you think about that 10 billion planets just in our small galaxy, and most scientists believe that there's at least billions of other galaxies out there. And some believe that there's actually trillions of other galaxies. And so when I look at these studies, it makes me take that we're the only ones to, how can we be the only ones? So, Grandmother Mulara, would you like to weigh in on this topic?
Ooh, well, I'll begin by saying that we know that we come from another country. So we talk about country a lot in our language, we're connected to country, the land, but we say that we come from another country originally. We come from the stars. So that is not unusual concept for us. And there are some of us that have seen the UFOs, they called it in my time, different spaceships. Yeah. Especially out in the Flinders Ranges, where I come from. It's wide open space. Very strong energy, very old land. And there'll be some that will argue that that's not the case with me, but I know, and I have been told, and I have seen it for myself, that they're out there. We know that. We share the planet with many beings. I've said that before, but we have visitors, as we are visitors on this planet.
I'd love to just step in here. I completely agree. And also, Chris, when you was doing your introduction, you were, as I heard it, talking about physical 3D planets within the universe and multiverse. As well as that, we have so many different dimensional energetic layers that are imposed on our own world and universe, and many of the beings are in different dimensions or densities. It's a bit like tuning into different radio stations. We're tuned into one radio station, but all these beings are tuned into different radio stations, and many just live their own lives within their own radio frequency, but many also know how to connect with us and interact with us. And you were talking, Grandmother Mulara, about some areas in the bush. Well, I know that there are some real power spots on the planet like Uluru, and that has a real it seems to attract a lot of different beings and energies, and has portals as well. So I'm thinking that's something that we could talk about.
There are some things I can't tell you.
Fair enough.
Becky, I love that you brought that, what you just said, because I was sitting here going the same thing, the same reaction. There's a multidimensionality and all sorts of visitors that phase in from other dimensions. I actually think we're becoming more multidimensional as we go through the quantum shift that's happening for humanity. Is we're phasing in and out of, but because dimensionality isn't really something our culture talks about that much, we don't realize how we're sort of phasing in and out a little bit while we're getting used to being more multidimensional beings.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, our souls are from different dimensions, and we are naturally multidimensional. And in fact, I fully believe that we have the ability to ourselves connect with many different dimensions and travel between them. I mean, when we go to sleep at night, many of us do astral travel. The sleep realms are a different form of consciousness, and many of us know how to use that to go on all sorts of journeys.
Well, and there's so many people that I talk to have memories as children, standing out, looking at the stars, saying, "Why did you leave me here?" Or "Come back and get me," or "Who are these people that are supposed to be my family?" Like, I know I don't have that particular experience, but there's so many people that have a real awareness and an inner knowing that they are not from this place, that they have a family somewhere that's way more resonant or, harmonious with them than the one that they find on the earth. And so I have never questioned that we have star families and that we come from places. I think a lot of us have come at this time to assist in this transition going on the planet. So
I think so too. And actually, Sue, it's funny. I've seen a lot of memes out there lately that are like, "Please come pick me up." So I was going to ask for people who are listening to this podcast, if this is a new topic for anyone, why do you think we came down here and kind of forgot about all of that, forgot about our star families, forgot about all the dimensions? Most of us, I agree with Sue that we're going in and out, but I shouldn't say most. I should say, a lot of us aren't able to physically see other beings or dimensions. And I think a lot of that is because of the veil, and then we forgot when we came here. But would anyone like to touch on that?
Well, I have to feel into what I can tell you. So, yes, we are all from other places, other countries. We're not just from this planet. At some stage or another in our evolution, we say that the stars are like campfires. They're mobs. So there's a campfire. Each star is like a campfire that has, whoever lives there is around that campfire. And Sue, you talked, I think it was Sue or Chris? No, Chris, you talked about as a child seeing the wide open spaces in the sky. Let me tell you, when I was out at in the Central Desert near Uluru, just in July this year. The stars were phenomenal, and they are so close out there, and there's no light, to take away the refraction. And I remember getting up, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning to go for a pee, and I didn't have my glasses on, and I was struck still by the beauty of the sky. It was absolutely full of stars, and I saw for the very first time the Scorpio tail, that it was just as clear as a bell in the sky. Right across the sky was the Scorpio tail. Wow, that was phenomenal. And that's why the dot paintings emerge from Central Australia. The dots represent the stars. So it's a canopy of another world out there. We have to have come from that place. We are part of that constellation of whatever it is we see. We are definitely part of that. So yeah, I was really struck. And in my country, it is similar but different. Like, it was just really close in the Central Desert, really close. And our place isn't too far away, and it's also got a clear sky most of the time, so you can see a 360 180 degree view of the sky. And if you get a chance, people listening to this, to go to a place where there is no interference with other light, it is really quite a strong phenomena, and it stays with you.
I totally agree. Having been to some places like down near Mexico, the Rio Grande River, but when I lived in Flinders Island, there was no light pollution at all. And I totally agree. Your night sky was awe-striking. I mean, like, wow. And then to watch the shooting stars and everything else that happen all the time. I don't know if I've seen UFOs or not. I don't know if I could tell the difference between some of the satellites and things, but I have no question that they're there.
I've seen them go to the side of a mountain.
Ooh.
In they go. Another one just went into the ground.
When I was about 17, it was a starry evening, and I was walking back from somewhere, and I reached a junction in the roads where it was on a hill, and I just happened to look up because it was such a clear starry night, and I saw a craft going like this, and I just thought, I wonder if that's an airplane. Doesn't look like an airplane. It's going quite fast. Maybe it's a shooting star. And I looked at it, and it just stopped, and then it went off at right angles. And I just stood there for a bit, and I was just thinking, nothing does that. There's nothing that can do that apart from a UFO, unidentified flying object. So then I just got a little bit concerned, and then so I went home, I charged into the house, and I said, Mom, I've just seen a UFO. It just went like this, and then like that. And she goes, yes, dear. Yes, dear. No.
we have a phenomena, and you just reminded me, called the Min Min lights. Have we ever spoken about that, or have you heard of that? The Min Min lights are in outback Australia, particularly going across Queensland into Northern Territory and the top part of South Australia. And I've seen them. So I was driving along. There's always two lights. I was driving along at night on a dirt road in the country, outback Queensland, and these lights were coming, and I thought, oh, there's a truck. It's a truck. So I dimmed my light. And I'm driving along, dim my light, and these lights weren't getting any closer. I think, God, I'll put my lights back up again. Then no, they'd come in. Put my lights down. And I said to my passengers, this truck isn't really doing much. And then we all just watched these two lights go up and scoot off into the night sky. They were the Min Min lights.
Wow.
Yeah. And we've got places in outback Queensland where people go to hear all the stories about Min Min lights. It's a phenomena here, but yes, definitely got some sort of UFO or alien connection to it.
I think it's interesting because it sounds like we meet aliens all the time in our everyday life and have no idea that they're not, well, including us, but
They walk amongst us. So the stars are an important calendar for Aboriginal people. Or as in Australia, we traditionally we would use the stars as our guide for when ceremony takes place, or when, in particular, the Seven Sisters, when the Seven Sisters rise in, roughly around May, and then they're in the sky until August, sort of mid-August. And in that time period, when we see the Seven Sisters, is a time where certain ceremonies take place and initiations. We also have when Venus is like a ceremonial star, or has ceremonial significance. It's like the morning star, and then it can become the evening star when it switches around. As the morning star, I think I got this right, we would have, no, when it's the evening star, we would actually have light a fire and keep the fire going until she became the morning star again. And she also does that dance with Mars. So there's dreaming stories about the Venus and Mars, but that's another ceremonial significance, particularly for women. And the twinkles, when you see a twinkle, when we say stars twinkle, for us it tells us about the weather, that there's weather coming, the way that the weather's affecting the stars. So we look to the stars for very much, basically our dreaming stories come from the stars. And you may have heard of the dark emu, or the emu in the sky. No, yes, no. Okay, so you need a clear sky. In a certain time of the year, you'll see, in fact, I saw the whole emu in July when I was down out in the centre. So it was just starting to fade by the time I left. So mid-July, there was the whole of the sky is the Milky Way. You can see the whole Milky Way, or I can look this way. And when you can see an emu in the sky, so you actually look at the spaces in between the stars, and when you see the whole emu in the sky, and you can actually see there's a cluster of stars that are her eggs, you know that's the female. She's got eggs in her belly, and that's a time, and you can see a foot, and that's her running after the male. Plenty of eggs abound. That's the time to go emu hunting. Emu egg collecting. So when you see the female in the sky, it's a good time to go collect the eggs. Then when the feet disappear, it's then the male sitting on the eggs. So our male emu does the raising of the chicks. So he then sits on the eggs, and that you don't collect the eggs then. The next generation have to be allowed to come through. So you don't take everything. You only take what you need, not what you greed. And so the male emu, he's sitting on the eggs. And then when you see the head disappear, it means he's got his head in a water hole. So it tells the local mobs, it's safe to drink from the water hole, because he's drinking from the water hole. And then when the whole emu disappears, you might up and move camp. So we use the emu in the sky, also known as the dark emu, because we use the dark parts in between the stars, as an indicator of our hunting and collecting. You know, when's the time that we can actually collect eggs. Emu eggs are, quite a delicacy, and they're quite large. So, we even paint them, or not me, but it's an art form to stencil emu eggs and paint them. It's quite stunning artwork. So that's just one example.
I love that, because that for me is using sacred wisdom. That is using the stars to read messages and know when it's time to do things. You know, it is like a calendar. And I know that many traditions around the world have used the stars for different reasons, for, you know, reading calendars. And of course, you know, stone circles are built connected with the star systems and solstices, and our own sun. And also the pyramids were built in the exact shape and distance of Orion's belt. And I know when whoever built that was very closely connected with the Orion star system. So all around our Earth, Mother Earth, we have humanity working with the stars and understanding that we have a close relationship with the stars and the universe.
We call him a waddy.
Oh,
he's a waddy.
Yeah. What's that? Sorry.
He's a waddy in our language. The Orion, he's a waddy. He's chasing the seven sisters, never catches them. And that's part of the story.
You mentioned they come up, you say May to August with you. We get them throughout our winter. So we get them through, you know, the winter months. So yes. So right, I'll the dogs are playing. Simon, do you want to join us? Yes, we need to get Freya off the chair. Freya's joined me here on the chair. There we go. There you go, darling. Come on, you two.
It's amazing, because so much of that connection with the stars also has to do with our connection to the earth, because what the stories you're telling, Grandmother Mulara, really are showing how connected we were to the earth and everything going on. Hi, Simon.
Hello there. Very, very grateful. It's wonderful to spend a few minutes with you guys. Yeah, it's a topic that I have some interest and some knowledge on. I did obviously catch some of what you were saying. I think one of the greatest sadnesses for me is that our history and culture over thousands of years has been influenced, both for negative and for good, from external intelligences. And then for a host of reasons, some of them deliberate, to keep humanity, you know, from knowing the truth, to just literally people forgetting. But the reality is that as a peoples on this earth, we have grown up not fully understanding the interconnectivity that did and does surround humanity through consciousness. And, you know, I pray that at some point in our lifetimes, that truth is deemed to be okay to share with people. And I think that, you know, I heard you talking about Stonehenge or the pyramids, and it's just so incredible that professors and doctors of science and of Egyptology will give out the same nonsense that they have for the last 40, 50 years, fully knowing actually that it's quite impossible. And just before I finish, I would say that many years ago, I did a calculation, 2.5 million stone blocks that make up the pyramid, and they weigh about 2.2 or 2.3 tons each. And I did a calculation of how long it would take for such a pyramid to be built, providing nobody had a holiday in a year, and nobody took a lunch break, and nobody took a tea break. And it was years and years. And I wrote that, and I sent it off to the Natural History Museum. And they actually wrote back in London. I wrote back and said, your calculation is accurate, or, you know, approximately accurate. Now, you know, what people don't understand is that for 6 months of the year, the Nile floods, and all of the workforce have to go on and plant the sides of the Nile to create the corn to feed all of Egypt. So you haven't got 12 months of the year to build it. You've only got 6 months of the year. So when you look at all of these nonsenses that have been put out through academia, it is high time that spirituality removed a dogma and actually we saw the truth. So it's a great topic and I loved it.
Great.
Sue, have you got anything to add? Because I know you haven't had much of a chance to speak yet.
Well, I love what Simon just mentioned about the interconnectivity, because when I was living down in Tasmania on Flinders Island, I spent a lot of time in the bush just tuning in. And I could see, you know, like we are the interconnectivity. I always call it the web of interconnectivity, where nothing is brought in, nothing needs to be taken away. It's just everything provides for everything else. And that we as humans have stepped out of that web of interconnectivity. I mean, I have always said it's like we don't we don't poop in the woods anymore. We don't add back what we are getting rid of, whereas everything else, all of the waste from everything provides the food for everything else. And it's always been a very great sadness for me because we're so disconnected from our earth connection. And you guys, I love all that we're talking about because we're disconnected from our star connection as well. And yet so many people that I talk to have that deep sense of knowing that they have family, you know, they have connections, they have deep feelings of what is there and how close it is to them.
I think given we've got Simon on here, I might share something to the public world that has happened in my country, and I've got proof of it. So this is in the Flinders Ranges, Northern Flinders Ranges, South Australia, the second oldest mountain ranges in the world. And I had a group out there, and we did some beautiful place to see and do stuff. And one of the experiences that we had was to basically open the new dreaming. It just happened as we were in a cavernous type of area. It was like an amphitheater. And in doing a song, we were singing together. A song came through. We had light beings come out of the rock and join us. Now, we're the rock people, so it wasn't a surprise that we say we came out of the rock. But to actually have the light beings come out and join us, there was a light being that held our hand between each person that was there. Those that were standing, they held their hand standing. Those that were sitting, they held their hand sitting, and they joined us in the transformational energy that we were bringing through to really bring through the new dreaming. And I'll show you a picture of what they look like. I have this on my altar. I don't know if that's familiar to you, Simon, but that is who came out of the rock.
Okay. Well, anything over the seventh dimension is energy. So any humanoid form up to the sixth dimension is still a physical being. The seventh dimension is the bridge between the two worlds, part physical, part non-physical. And as you go up to the higher dimensions, so it becomes more and more energy. And it's interesting that when something of negativity comes through into our reality, it appears black simply because it absorbs all the light. So all the light in this reality is drawn through. But when a positive being approaches, it actually has the light. And it's quite interesting how it's quite clear the intentions of the beings. People will always report that anything that's, coming for bad reasons doesn't bring the light with it, and those that are coming for good purposes bring the light with it. So it's a great relief that you had light beings around you. I mean, obviously you not
really tall,
really
tall,
of
no form, just pure light.
They sound a
Incredible.
bit like some of the seed race, you know, the race that seeded the planet. That was very, very, they were very, very tall light beings. Has anyone else heard about those?
We call them the Inti.
What? Sorry, yeah.
We call them the Inti.
Inti.
They've left markings in my country called petroglyphs, and they're really high. They go from ground level to very, very high. And yeah, that wasn't made by us. We say that was the mob before us. And we know we're the first mob, human form. So that mob that came before us, we call them the Inti. And they are the ones that did the hundreds of kilometers of petroglyphs. And they're so old that some of those the petroglyphs are now falling off the face of the rocks. But if you look really carefully, you can see that some of those rocks aren't actually rocks. They're stone people. They're beings as you look really high. So there's a lot to share here. I'm doing it worldwide, so I've just exposed that. But you got to know where to go to find it. You won't just find it it's off the beaten track. So imagine my surprise and the surprise of my friends who are with me to have that experience. And we knew then that something magical had just happened. And I don't think any of us have been the same since. And it wasn't long after that experience that Uluru, which is on one of the song lines from my country through there, then became activated. The actual people stopped climbing the rock, but the rock itself and the area there got activated. And in that activation, there was a shift of consciousness. Yes.
I think one of the things I'm looking forward to, this is a very serious and quite groundbreaking topic. But of course, at the moment, like many of these things, they're playing second fiddle to the world political situation that's unfolding. And so the debate that maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago we had, and the great sharing of information has almost completely died down, because people are just wondering when Trump is coming back, or this, that, and the other. And the problem with all that is that it has really taken away the focus on this topic. Now, when the world situation is sorted out, then I hope that we can get back and bring more people into this. But it really is like many topics, it's actually been pushed right to the back burner at the moment. So I'm really pleased that you are including this in the spiritual topic, because it is spirituality. And I have been on record as saying there are a number of entities which are technologically far superior to us, but in terms of their spirituality, they're well below us. And there are others that are very high in their spirituality. And I think that we as a people need to understand our position within the galactic family. And it is not against God. God can create us, God can create anything. And so it's wrong for theologians to push the fact that it's just the human race and that's it. So we've got all these boundaries and hurdles which we've been trying to overcome. And here we have another one, which is the world political situation. And hopefully when that is resolved one way or the other, then we can really get back and have hundreds of people on this debate, because it's really important. It's our history, it's our birthright in many ways, which needs to be returned to us. And somebody has got to have the courage to say, look, the human race can cope with the truth. Let's give them the truth and then let them decide what they want to do with it. So, we need governments to actually be involved, be on board. Don't just make something, that you've talked about, a World Heritage Site, and, do some paperwork in the United Nations and say this, that, and the other. There needs to be education about it. Schools and universities need to know the truth. And, that's what I hope comes. So who knows, you might look back on this and say, during the height of the international desperate situation on Mother Earth, You know, this broadcast actually kick-started a whole new debate on it, and why not? Why shouldn't it?
I think that there are other people talking about it. I mean, in the last few decades, people have been talking more and more about UFOs, and you know, UFOs and aliens are on an agenda, on a political agenda as well, aren't they?
Yeah, but the problem is, as long as we talk about flying saucers, and I saw this coloured light in the sky and that coloured light in the sky, that doesn't take us anywhere. That's exactly what the powers that be want. You know, we have these endless rounds about this, that, and the other, but we're not actually addressing the issues that pertain to the human race. And so what I want to do is to take it away from, I saw this coloured light in the sky, or Auntie Enid fell over when she saw a spaceship. You know, I want to actually to make it real. And yes, it's been a topic since Roswell in 1947. But what I'm saying is, over the last 2+ years, understandably, people's attention is on what they see as matters to them today and tomorrow, whereas the topic of UFOs is of a great interest to them, but they see it as separated from them. And what I'm hoping is that we can bring this back into the wider discussion and go forward with it. Shall I leave you now? With your bits?
I don't know.
My experience is that the benevolence of the universe is really profound. And the benevolence is assisting us. They're truly, truly our friends, or more than that, they're our family, and that's what I hold on to be optimistic. But there's a lot more to be revealed. Yeah,
it's been great. Thanks ever so much. And I meant what I said. I hope that this does kickstart a proper debate when things have calmed down in the wider world. You know, it is part of the truth that has to be released to the public. And I just can't wait for all the hidden documents, the scrolls, the carvings, all to be laid out for people. And I can't wait for universities to change the way they teach and what they teach, and all the history books to be rewritten,
so that we understand the true roots of our humanity and not what we have been told so far.
Well, if you go down the authority route, you could be shown a number of fossil human skulls, and then they will say to you, over this period of time, the brain increased in size. And they do it by pouring glass beads, and they measure the cubic capacity of the brain. And that's how they just pass it all off. The reality is that humanity made tremendous leaps in very short periods of time. And it is not possible under the normal evolutionary program or pattern for intelligent beings or creatures to come to this position over a period of 2 million years, because that's what we're told. Over 2 million years, we went from very crude humanity, and I'm using the word loosely, to what we are today. And if we assume that is all natural, then unfortunately we're lying to ourselves, because we have had assistance from some other intelligence to enable us to get this far. I mean, I honestly think, and that was a really good point about the benevolence, had we not, in my humble opinion, had benevolent intervention, we would have wiped ourselves out a long time ago. Something doesn't want that to happen. The planet is too beautiful. The Earth is an amazing being, and anyone who has higher intellect wouldn't dream of seeing the Earth destroyed in a radioactive cloud, let alone all these creatures that God made, whether they are mice or humans, it doesn't matter. And so thank goodness they've got a higher view, and they're prepared to step in, and they have done a number of times in Earth's history where men, I'm being deliberate here, men have taken this planet to the brink of destruction. Thank goodness for that referee who's stepped in and said, you're not going to do that. You know, we need as a race to evolve so we can sit around a table and have some form of dialogue. And I don't mean a general or a president, as has been the case in the past. I mean, humanity as a whole needs to be able to sit round with these benevolent beings and say, we don't want to be told what to do, but we need to be helped. And we will ask you for help, but please don't try and push us to do anything. And I think that's the arrangement that needs to have, whereas negative entities will attempt to blackmail or threaten. And so I think that it's time for humanity to actually be what humanity really is. It's been lovely. I'm going to leave you.
Oh, okay, I was just going to ask one more question about, you
Okay.
were talking about the...
I don't want to take your show up.
Well, this is... Okay, but this is just part of it. You're talking about the whole history of it, of humanity.
Yeah.
What about the elongated skulls? There's lots of skeletal records of humans who had much larger skull capacities, and also records of humans who were just a lot bigger than us.
Well, two things on that. First of all, the establishment will tell you that if you bind a baby's head very tightly with cloth, it'll make your head grow very long, which is very interesting.
It doesn't increase the capacity; it just changes the shape.
I know. I'm just telling you what the authorities
yeah.
tell you. What was the second point? Because
the larger skeletons as well.
Right. Well, if we were to forget what we're told by authority and go back in history, you'll find that gravity on Earth was 1/3 the strength it is now. And simply the largest land animal is an elephant. And the reason that the elephant is the largest animal is that is the biggest size that a flesh and blood creature can actually achieve under the current gravity that we have on Earth. The only other animal is a whale, but you know, when you're in the water, it reduces the effect of gravity. But if you go back to the time of the dinosaurs, we're going back 100 million years, they were huge because gravity was 1/3 of what it is today. Therefore, those creatures could naturally grow to the size that the Earth could have. Now, when you look at, I think is the best way, because we can't really get to grips with it because the powers that be aren't letting us do that. But if we look at some of the skulls and we look at some of the, you talk about the rock people, when you look at some of that and you appreciate that if you are, and I don't want to lose your audience now, but if you are hybridized or if you contain a very high vibrational energy, then the effect of gravity on your physical form is reduced. Because you couldn't put a 12-foot person, shall we say, onto Earth at the current level without changing something, because they would find it very difficult to move fluidly as somebody who was half their size. And so if we accept that the gravity has been at its level now for a long time, let's say many hundreds of thousands of years, then we have to assume that these beings were genetically altered. And, you know, there are records there which show that aging that naturally makes us age is to do with sunlight. Now, that it might sound quite shocking to some people, but it is my belief that something was put into the human genome which react to sunlight, and so we artificially age, because there's no reason why we can't live for hundreds of years. And whether you believe in the Bible or not, the Bible clearly says that some of these beings lived for 1,000 years. And that's perfectly possible if the human DNA had not been altered. And the reason for that is that if we only lived for 100 years, how can we change the status quo? If we live for 1,000 years, think of the experiments that you could do at 100 years old. And by the time you were 700 or 800 years into those experiments, you've completely changed everything. But by ensuring that humanity dies physically after one lifetime, comes back, does not remember what it did previously, it starts again from the beginning. So you never build the building, you're always only ever building the foundations. So we've got to overcome this. So, you know, the hidden records from Alexandria or from the Vatican have to be released. And all the stolen material, so that humanity can catch up with where it should be. That's where we are. I mean, it's much more than I saw a flying saucer in the sky. And the authorities like that, because that's where the debate is. What they don't want is the searching questions about how they've lied to us. I will go. It's lovely. Okay. Lots of love. God bless to everyone. I really love your shows. And I know the audience do as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
I'm really sorry to not be able to ask him this question, but he's talking about how we can overcome this within humanity. And it seems like it's more than just bringing out more of the information, but somewhere we've made some sort of agreement to be, dumbed down, held down, whatever. And, I haven't seen aliens, I haven't seen UFOs, but where I have run into that other interaction is when I've been working with people, and it started about a year ago when I'm working one-on-one and finding, because I clear lots of agreements, but there was one, and it's like it took me up to meet with, like there was a galactic agreement made that was not good for the person or for their star family, and we broke the agreement, and that alien race was one of the not happy ones, was not happy about it, because Grandmother Mulara, you exposed yourself, I'm exposing myself a little. They look to the future and they see that they're going to go extinct. And what happened, I'll make it a short story. What happened, like Michael and legions of it, there was a whole lot of light beings show up absolutely loving the nefarious group, and they gave them an opportunity for a different evolutionary pathway. Like the agreement was broken, they gave them an opportunity to evolve, to develop consciousness, to develop compassion and empathy, so that they could move forward with how the whole creative world is going. That's why I wanted to ask Simon, it's like, are there other ways for us to get out from under this stupor so that we can move into our wholeness? Go ahead.
I think that, well, to your point, humanity and individuals within humanity were definitely tricked into signing agreements that weren't for the highest good of them personally and humanity. And I think we are at a point where we can undo that. I also feel that the next step of humanity, where we're stepping into Nisara Jasara, bringing back many technologies that were hidden, Tesla technologies, and there will be the opportunity for people to live longer, to have better health, to explore more of who they are and their spirituality and their connection with all that is. I think that it's been a massive battle. I mean, it's a bigger galactic battle than we can possibly imagine, where beings that are of more negative vibration, that want to take on, use our energy because they cannot create themselves. And we are creators, we are naturally creators, and they can live off that energy, and so they don't need to evolve or create because they're more arrogant in that they feel they can control everything by using what is already there. Some beings and civilizations do want to evolve, and as Simon would say, ride off the back of humanity, and some don't, and there is that choice going on at the moment. So I think it's a hugely important topic, and it's a hugely important time that this is happening.
People have to just not get caught up in their heads about whether UFOs are real or not, or whether aliens are real or not. We are way past that. That is a really low density vibration. I tell you, the Star Wars are real. That really did happen, and we won. The good guys won, and we are now still playing that out in various dimensional selves. one of the things I was going to say when Simon was still there is he talked about the scrolls and getting the truth out there so we can all catch up with what the truth of history is. I'm going to share that, and I know because I was part of the ground up team of elders now past, but when they were alive, so powerful and so amazing, but so private. They have collected and made sure that we have a repository in another dimension of all of the DNA of all of the species of Earth. These are the things that my people, the Aboriginal elders, not now, there's been so much junk thrown into our corner, but the old people, that is who they were. And I had the privilege of working with them to do that work. And it's incredible. Who do we tell? I'm now outing that. But I was about to share that with Simon, that it's not just what is in 3D. We've got repositories for the whole of humanity, for all of the species on Earth, for everything. But we have that repository very safely guarded, partly why we can't tell you some things, because they need to stay safely guarded. They are in an interdimensional vault.
It's a well-known thing. I mean, not that, but the concept and the practice of hiding sacred objects, sacred relics, sacred items and beings for humanity, of hiding them out of phase with this reality. So yes, I can well appreciate that, and I will let Simon know, and he won't be in the slightest bit surprised, because we know of a few things like that as well.
And thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
And thank you for doing that. Thank you
Thank my elders.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
we care. We're a guardian of if we're a guardian of the waterways, we're a guardian of the waterways, of all of the waterways of Earth. You know, it's whatever our responsibility is. And I had the most amazing law elder, one in particular, or law elders, but one in particular who worked with the extraterrestrials. She was working with them all the time, day and night. And so, you know, to be able to round up the genetic coding of all of the species of Earth was really quite a profound and humbling journey. Just it was awesome how awe-inspiring our elders are. We're of that caliber, and they did it without any records anywhere. They just tapped you on the shoulder and said, "You come with me." And yeah, profound.
Beings of higher spirituality and understanding, just beings that are way more advanced than us, not because they're newer, but perhaps because they're older. And I, you know, we come from them. We're all connected, and we all choose these different paths. And I also recognize that many beings who are what we would call higher dimensional and perhaps closer in a way to God source, they do admire us, because we've had to take a much harder journey to inhabit this physical form and go on these personal journeys. And sometimes we do it in a kind of a gung-ho way, and I'm talking about this now from a reincarnation point of view, because we looked at it, we say, well, it's not very long, you know, it's only what, 70 to 100 years I've got to do this, that's no time at all, that's a blink of an eye. But when we're actually in these bodies and we go through this process, and we initially to some degree forget who and what we are, and go through the hardships of just living an everyday life, it's a lot harder than we always anticipate when we're looking at it from the other side, but we do our journeys and we do this work because we do make these agreements, and these are different agreements to the negative karmic ones that you're talking about. So these are agreements that are part of our total soul family, our total understanding that we are here on a mission to make a real difference and have key roles in making this very, very special earth and humanity a better place, making it more positive, because it is one of the most, am I going to say important? There's a lot of interest in this planet. There's a lot going on. We have a lot of genetic history with all the plants and animals and beings that have been on this planet throughout the whole history, and it's hugely important. And the whole evolution of humanity has been a battle. And, you know, we say, oh, the baddies, they've knocked us down, and we try to get up. Well, maybe that's a way of just strengthening. We mentioned in a previous podcast about, you know, forging iron to make it stronger. And maybe that's what it's doing for us. But it's all part, as Sue said, of an interconnectivity. We are part of that. And many of us are recognizing this now.
I love what you said too about, you know, because I am always aware of so many of us have incarnated now to help. Like we come, we take on, and even sometimes extra things to transmute or to heal, to help all of humanity move forward. And it's why I love so many of the people in Connecting Consciousness. I think most of them are these star beings that have come in here with a purpose, whether they know what it is yet or not, to just help this transition and help humanity move to its next level, to its full potential, however you want to describe it. So yes, I totally agree.
Chris, do you want to say anything now? I recognize we've almost done an hour, and it's been a very, very interesting podcast. I do hope our listeners like it.
It absolutely has been, and I hope so too. And I just wanted to thank both Grandmother Mulara for sharing some personal and very inspirational stories, and then Sue as well. Your agreement breaking story was very, very interesting, positive, and beautiful. So thank you both for sharing some deep insights here today.
It's been fun. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, and thank you both. Thank you, Becky, and thank you to all of our listeners.